that they have the Babaji versus the Salazat line controversy and the Saki Beki and Sahajiyas. And then Maharaj alludes to the other Sampradayas, which Srila Bhaktivinoda Tagore lists. So we've been going through that, and strange, we're kind of eager to kind of complete it so we can start speaking more positive things. But sometimes we have to also understand what is not Krishna consciousness as well, because it does help.
Yeah, you know, I just thought on that point, I was just now listening to a lecture by Prabhupada, and he said, seeing the dark side is very intelligent, because otherwise you get cheated.
Oh yeah, really? Well, that's quite a spot-on quote. So
Also,
seeing the dark side is very intelligent, otherwise we might get cheated. Otherwise we might get misled. Yeah. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur drew our attention to these Apasampradayas, and Prabhupada mentions them throughout his books. You'll find mention of them. And we have already described, we spoke about the caste Goswamis, those who consider themselves Uttam Adhikaris by birth in a particular family. Yeah, and then about the Smartas, who consider they have exclusive rights to teach and to worship the Lord, and no one can become a Brahmana unless you're born within a family of Brahmanas. And again, Bhaktisiddhanta was at war against these caste Brahmanas. So we discussed a little bit about that. And then we went on to the Prakrita Sahajiya, known as cheap pseudo-devotees. We discussed a little bit about them. Let's see. Anyone remember something specific about these Prakrita Sahajiya? We gave a little about the history of them. They have a history. They was even present, you could say, before the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Basically, they take everything very cheaply. Yeah, they don't follow any specific regulative principles. They're often good musicians, but often they're very good at imitative ecstasy as well. They have no particular, they don't follow any particular means for purification. You just chant the holy name of the Lord, and therefore everything you do is okay, even if it's against the regulative principles in essence. So they take things very cheaply. Yeah, that's the Prakrita Sahajiya. And then, yeah, a bit more about them. And then we're here, Ranganagari. Okay, this is where we left off last week. So we begin with a quote from Prabhupada. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, who mentions, from the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, an intelligent person engaged in pure devotional service can understand that he always felt separation from Krishna within himself. In that separation, he sometimes felt he had found Krishna and was enjoying the meeting. So this means, this will become relevant, because this means he's in the mood of who? If he's feeling separation from Krishna, he's in the mood of? Yeah. The significance of this separation and meeting is very specific. If someone tries to understand the exalted position of Lord Chaitanya, without knowing this mood, he is sure to misunderstand it. Then he mentions, one must first become fully realized. Otherwise, he may misidentify the Lord as Bhagara, or the enjoyer of the damsels of Raj, thus committing the mistake of rasabas, or overlapping understanding. So they see Lord Chaitanya as being Krishna and enjoying as Nagara. his associates as Krishna did with his gopis. Yeah. So Ranga Nagari. Yeah. So that's the essence of their misunderstanding. Now, it's quite a subtle contamination. It's not as, you could say, it's not as grossly obvious as a Prakrita Sahaji is. It's just they have a wrong conception of the mood of Lord Chaitanya. Yeah. And it's so this mood is strongly condemned by many Gaudiya, has strongly condemned within the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Now, some of the, some of their aspects of this, can we say, sect, they seem quite, they are, could say they seem like very staunch Vaishnavas. They're not like the Prakrita Sahajiyas. They actually quite strict in their principles. They abstain from fish and flesh, etc. As it's mentioned here, they're very good at kirtan, and they may be following a lot of the principles of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But this subtle contamination, there's all stuff come out on my computer here. Let's get rid of that. And now here's a quote from Srimad Bhagavatam from Prabhupada. This is a purport, and from the 4th canto. Some says, sometimes the Sahajiya class of devotees are interested only in Krishna's personal pastimes to the exclusion of the activities of the devotees. So what that basically means is that these Gauranga Nagaris, they have no interest in the Panchatattva. They're not interested in the 5 features of Lord Chaitanya, the manifestation of 5 features, the Panchatattva. Basically, they relate to Lord Chaitanya solely as Krishna himself, and particularly Krishna's mood as Lam Pato, or one who is enjoying with the gopis, who's free in a transcendental realm to enact Leela and pastimes. So they see Krishna in that regard as the Nagara. Lord Chaitanya is Nagara, the enjoyer, and these Gauranga Nagaris, they play the mood or the sentiment of gopis enjoyed by Lord Chaitanya. So they're quite mixed up. It's quite yeah. So here's some more quotes from Prabhupada. The Gaura Nagaris who place Lord Chaitanya in the position of enjoyer and themselves as the enjoyed are not approved by Lord Chaitanya or by Lord Chaitanya's followers. Instead of being blessed, the foolish imitators are left completely apart. Now, I've heard of these Gauranga Nagaris, and as I've said, I've read it in Srila Prabhupada's books, but until I did this little study, I was never very clear on the misconception which they had. But these quotes that Sahotra Swami brings up here kind of makes it very clear, and I hope it's becoming clear for you also. He continues.
Yes, Prabhu, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So if there is a Gauranga Nagari in the temple or somewhere in the neighborhood, how do we know he's a Gauranga Nagari? We just think, oh, he's chanting Krishna and he's got Lord Chaitanya pictures. So we're probably thinking like one of the ISKCON deviations.
Yeah, well, when they speak, when they speak, all will be revealed.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
I think, as far as I understand, it's not something you are going to see in our local ISKCON temples. I don't think.
More in India.
It's more if you go to Navadvip, if you go to Vrindavan, and you're going to probably come across them there. Yeah. Anyway, they are there. We may have seen them but not known of their inner incorrect sentiment. Yeah, so yeah, if they, when they start speaking, they speak of Lord Chaitanya in a different way, that Prabhupada will speak of Lord Chaitanya in a different way, that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would speak of Lord Chaitanya. Yeah, that's why it said the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, they reject totally these Gauranga Nagaris. That's why Prabhupada said they are left completely apart. So often Vaishnava Acharyas, they won't speak about them much. Speaking about them will give them some type of credit. So they don't even, although Bhaktivinoda Thakur highlights them, they don't extensively worry about them too much, or they don't speak about them because they don't want to give them any type of recognition. They are so far out. Do you understand? So you won't see it's there in Prabhupada's books, and he mentions it here and there, and so we should be aware of it. But most of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, they're not going to speak extensively to a large degree. Yeah. But they are mentioned, and we should be aware of how misconceptions can arise. Yeah. So just carrying on this quote here, it continues. Their concoctions are against the principles of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The doctrine of transcendental enjoyment by Krishna cannot be mixed up with the doctrine of transcendental feeling of separation from Krishna in the role of Radharani. So that's Lord Chaitanya's mood. He's in the role of Radharani, tasting her love for Krishna. Yeah. And it cannot be mixed up with Krishna in his Nagari as the supreme enjoyer. That's not Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood. So interesting, they have nothing, they're not interested in Panchatattva. It is pretty way off from our perspective that we have been given. Yeah.
Such a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame. That's one way of putting it.
Yeah, they talk about Chaitanya, but not really in a different, in a wrong way.
Yeah, in the wrong way. And it's subtle, but it's quite a serious misconception as well. And it will not lead to the ultimate goal. Yeah.
Maha mantra?
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if they do. As it said by Sahotra Swami in his study, he understood that they can externally, they're quite strict Vaishnavas, but they have a different philosophical, they have a rasabas. This is called rasabas. Oh, we're studying rasabas in Nectar of Devotion. So an incompatible mellow in understanding the divinity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. And yeah, more quotes here. Here's another one. And the so-called party of devotees, namely Nadia Nagari, that's Gauranga Nagari, has sprung up and introduced the worship of Vishnu Priya. This certainly indicates ignorance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes in the opinions of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Such worship is a product of the imagination. Now, later on, we will describe what is their conception of Vishnu Priya as opposed to our Gaudiya Vaishnava conception. Yeah. So, actually, it's coming up now. So, as we mentioned, we worship, Lord Chaitanya is described in the Adi Leela, and his mood is described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Radha Bhava Jyoti Suvalitam. So he is adorned with the mood and luster of who? Lord Chaitanya is adorned with the Radha Bhava Jyoti. So Radha means Radharani, Bhava means mood, and duty means or effulgence adorned with. Yeah, it doesn't say he's not Krishna Bhava Duty Suvalitam. He's not in the mood of Krishna. He's come to taste the mood of Radharani. Yeah. He's not adorned with the mood and luster of Krishna, but the Granganagaris say he is. He is Krishna, and he's come as Lampado to enjoy like Krishna with his associates, the gopis. Yeah.
So obviously they don't read Chaitanya Charitam.
Oh, it's interesting how you can perhaps they really if they don't accept Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. I mean who do? I mean where do they get these misconceptions from? Who is their acharya? I don't think that's mentioned. That detail's not mentioned. It's called speculation. That's why it's very important to hear from the acharyas about, to hear from Krishnadas Kaviraj what is the mood of Lord Chaitanya, rather than you can without going through the acharya or without going through this dislibic succession, you can come up with any, as Prabhupada says here, any figment of your imagination. Yeah. So now Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, he describes about the tattva of Vishnu Priya Devi. Yeah. So she's actually Bhul Shakti. She's a form of Lakshmi. Yeah. Now, I just read this part here. The wives, mothers, and daughters of Lord Gauranga's associates in Nadia attend Vishnu Priya in her bathing and dressing, exactly as maidservants of Lakshmiji serve her in Vaikuntha Dham. Their mood is different from the moods of the damsels of Vrindavan. So it's quite as subtle, it's a difference there. The Gauranga Nagaris see Vishnu Priya as, what was it? As Radharani, but she's not. She's actually Lakshmi. Yeah. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And again, they see Lord Chaitanya is enjoying, is it this one here? They've even invented myths about Lord Chaitanya's, okay, perhaps, this is one of the things I wasn't too sure whether to even mention, but they've invented, the Gauranga Nagaris invented myths about Lord Chaitanya's supposed affairs with a mistress named Kanchana. Yeah, in the mood of Krishna enjoying. Yeah. So they have these stories. Yeah, so-called. Yeah. And it mentions, Hotra Maharaj mentioned, they should never be heard. So Gaudiya Vaishnavas don't go anywhere near them or they're so-called. Yeah. All right. I can see a few people trying to understand.
Do they come in a parampara somewhere?
Not in our parampara.
No, I know, but do they have their own something?
I don't know to the extent that they have any structured society, or there's probably you're going to find temples in Vrindavan and Navadvip where the acharya of the temple is going to be in this mood of Gauranga Nagari. I don't know so how much actually in much detail of if they have any cultural groups or I don't know those details. As Raj Kishore mentioned, it may not be so easy to identify them unless they start speaking about Lord Chaitanya. Yeah.
I think they would be in Navadvip, something like that.
Yeah, Navadvip. Yeah.
Vishnu Priya is there, so the DC is there, so yeah.
Yeah, so they worship Vishnu Priya as Radharani. Yeah, I think I missed. Yeah. Now that's the Gauranga Nagaris, okay? So we're going to leave them behind. Now we're going to go to the Saki Beki and Truda Hari. Now, we spoke on these we have spoke about the Saki Bekis more than one time, so we won't spend so much time But here's a quote from Prabhupada to begin with. Only when one regains his original spiritual body can one enter into the spiritual kingdom. As for the Ras Leela pastimes of the Lord are concerned, it is futile to attempt to imitate the Lord's dances within the material world. One has to attain a spiritual body like the gopis to enter into the pastimes of Ras Leela. Yeah. And Prabhupada goes on, simply by artificially imitating Krishna's Ras Leela dance or artificially thinking oneself as Krishna and dressing oneself up as a Saki, one cannot enter his Ras Leela dance. Now, the word Ibeki is a derivative of the word Saki. Yeah, the gopis are known as Sakis. So Beki, Saki Beki, it's a corruption of the Sanskrit word, which means, actually means dress, Beki. So they dress like gopis. Yeah. Now, often it's not just that, maybe often it's males, but sometimes they're ladies also. But mainly they're males, the Saki Beki, and they dress just like we do as sadhana. We chant 16 rounds and we hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Their sadhana for attracting Krishna is to dress like gopi. And those who've been to Vrindavan, you may have seen, where you get these old wrinkled up men with nose rings and eye makeup and wearing saris, and they move in an effeminate way. They're doing that because Krishna's attracted to gopis. So in their mental concoction, they dress like gopis. And they're quite horrifying to look at most of them. That's Krishna. Yeah. So again, sometimes the females take part. So they dress themselves up as gopis and imagine themselves as being enjoyed by Krishna. And they go as far as imitating Ras Leela. So they will have their own Ras. Yeah. And they will dance with a person who is dressed like Krishna. That person is called Chadudhari. Yeah. So Saki Bekis are gopis and Chadudhari is Krishna. Yeah. Chadudhari. So they will have a whole Ras Leela and someone will dress like Krishna, known as Chadudhari. Yeah, so these two, Saki Beki and Chadudhari, they're basically the same, but one of them dresses as gopis, and the other one dresses as Krishna. Yeah. Okay. Again, I just read from there. This is nicely written by Sahotra Swami here. These Saki Bekis think that Krishna is pleased by seeing their fleshy sack bodies, full of bones, blood, and stool, dressed up in saris, decorated with nose rings and ornaments, with hair done like women, with feet painted red, with faces, they shave twice a day. And they sing in high, falsetto voices like gopis, the women, and gesturing with women's movements. And also the Chadudharis, those are dressed as Krishna, they think that Radharani will become attracted to them.
Oh my God.
And they take it seriously. I actually, because I was looking for pictures. You have to be careful, as you know, looking for pictures online. Anything come up. I was looking for pictures to try and show some examples. But I came across, it's quite I read one interview this man did with a Saki Beki. And some of them, they're not extroverted as such. They don't externally display and all themselves, but within their bhajan, within their temple bhajan, they kind of do bhajans and sing, but they're dressed as gopis and they're trying to invoke gopi bhava. also dressing like gopis. And there's one film there about these Saki bakers, which I did not watch. didn't want to take any chances. Yeah. So yeah, now they argue, they have an example which they follow. Because one time, Gadadhar Das, who is non-different from Gadadhar, this is different from Gadadhar Pandit, but Gadadhar Das was an associate of Lord Chaitanya. And one time he walked through the town, he had a clay pot of Ganges on his head, and he was calling out that he had yogurt for sale and was laughing loudly. So he was, in his ecstasy, was acting out like a gopi. So they say, just see, the associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. He actually did this. Yeah. So let me just, so that's I read this part here. The Saki Beki and Chadodari take Krishna and the gopis very cheaply. This is due to the influence of impersonalism, by which they think they can become one with the Lord and the gopis through some imaginative meditation. But even if the goddess of fortune cannot enter into Ras Leela in her eternal spiritual form, even after ages of austerity, how will it be accomplished by a fool who merely dresses up his gross material body? Okay, so that's the Saki, Beki, and Chadodhari, I think. All right, that's enough of them. We ready for the next ones? Miha is not. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like abomination. I can't believe what they are doing.
Yeah, it's a good description. It's abomination, And Prabhupada, that's why Prabhupada was very strict with devotees. If they would have any type of he was very careful to protect these devotees and wouldn't stand for any of this type of thing, any misconceptions. Go on to the Attavadi. Now, there's this wonderful story. There's one nice book. It was written by a Prabhupada disciple who's based in England. It's called the Seventh Gosvami, and it's about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And there's the story of one Bishik Shain. He was the pseudo-incarnation of Maha Vishnu. It's quite a dramatic story. Some of you might remember it. And he had mystic powers, actually. He could actually put his head into fire and lean into the flames. Then he'd come out and flames would come out of his head. He had some mystic powers. He could read people's minds as well. He could he could give various predictions as well. And he had two companions. One happened to be, because he was Mahavishnu, so-called, and one companion was Lord Brahma, another companion was Lord Shiva. Yeah. Now, because I always find it interesting how the kind of innocent, pious stroke innocent, perhaps foolish, you could say, people in Orissa, where this Bishik Shain was based near Puri, he influenced many wealthy, influential Hindu society, and they came under his or they became his disciples. Yeah, so they sent him money for building a temple, and they also provided women for his Ras Leela. This comes from high-class Indians. That's how much influence he had due to his so-called mystic powers. Now, what was his downfall began when he declared that he would drive the British. Mahavishnu is going to drive the British out of Orissa, and he's going to be the king. Yeah. So then it goes on. I won't tell the whole story. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur is deputed by the English to deal with this Bishik Shain. And that's why his picture's here. And he did. And the essence of the story, he dragged this Bisexshane to court, took a whole army of constables who were very fearful of this Bisexshane. And he took him to court. He was tried and put into prison. And all his followers were protesting outside. And in the end, the story goes, apparently yogis hold their mystic power in their hair. One English clerk had heard about this. He jumped on this Bisexshane and he shaved his hair off. He lost all his power and he died. He took poison and died in prison. Yeah. But during the trial, he, by his mystic power, he made Bhaktivinoda Thakur's family deathly sick. His wife, his children, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur had to be carried into court on a stretcher. This was all done by this Bisexshane. But ultimately, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was successful. Yeah. So he came from one sect called the Attavadi. Yeah. He came from a particular sect. So they actually claim to be Vaishnavas, but actually they're complete opposite. But that's their claim. Now this Sampradaya, this Apasampradaya, was started by someone called Jagannath Das. This was during the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. And he said he was a disciple of none other than Haridas Thakur. But he broke his connection with Haridas Thakur and began to preach his own ideas. Yeah. And for instance, he had and of course he had followers, like in India. Anyone can espouse anything and they got followers. So he had them cover their mouths while chanting Hare Krishna. I don't know why exactly. Don't think there was a pandemic there. And he told them to chant the second half of the Maha Mantra first. So they would chant Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yeah, so it sounds like he was associated somewhat with Haridas Thakur. Then he started his own so-called preaching. So the word Ativadi means too great. Yeah, and this word comes from this Jagannath Das. He approached Lord Chaitanya and he tried to bypass Swarup Damodar, who would scream, anyone who would want to come to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to present some type of philosophy, some type of play or poem, would all have to go through Swarup Damodar. Yeah. So he wanted to recite his own translation of Bhagavatam. Yeah, in which he had added 5 chapters of his own. Yeah. So when he went to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu said, a fallen soul like me is not worthy enough to hear the Bhagavatam composed by an author like you. So he was being a bit sarcastic. He didn't want anything to do with it. Yeah. And now this Jagannath Das, he declared, he understood Lord Chaitanya to be Krishna and himself to be Radharani. That was his misconception. And so what Lord Chaitanya said to him, so you have become too great, which is Attavadi. And an insignificant and fallen soul like me can have nothing to do with you. You become too great. So he was kind of, again, he was sarcastically, strongly criticizing and doing what he didn't want anything to do with it. You're too great. So he and his followers took that as praise instead of condemnation. Yeah. All right. You follow? Okay, so I'll read this part here. Jagannath Das had a sweet singing voice which attracted women to him. He engaged these ladies in massaging his body when he was actually taken to court in the end for his indecent behavior. And he said to the king, I do not see any difference between men and women. Anyway, he was put in prison, actually. for becoming a Vaishnava, a so-called Vaishnava sadhu. Yeah. And he had an ashram, which is there in Puri, and it's still there today. The ashram is still there. And his followers are still there in Puri.
Ah.
Yeah. And on certain occasions, they will dress as women on certain religious occasions. And they have a reputation for loosely mixing with women. They don't follow any principles. And actually, they're quite influential in Orissa, because of this Jagannath Das's Aryan translation of the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita is quite widely liked in Orissa, especially to the simple folk who have no sense of discrimination of what is authorized and what is not. Yeah. So it mentions here, they appear very devoted to Lord Jagannath. It's a source of pride. Yeah. And they have, so there's a whole sect of them prominent in Puri and Orissa. And they all have stories where Jagannath has personally revealed something to them, some truth or prophecy. Yeah. So if you're Attavadi, you should have a Malika. Malika is a series of revelations from the Lord. Yeah. And one of the common revelations they have is that the Lord predicts the year that the world will end. You know, it sounds, we sometimes hear that in the West as well. So they have quite a lots of they have some, they're kind of attached to Jagannath. In what way and how, I'm not sure, but they have many impersonal ideas. So basically, they believe after death that they will realize the Lord has no form, and they will have no form, and then merge. So they're very much influenced. So the Orissa, this Jagannath Das, they're very much influenced by the philosophy of Shankaracharya as well, Advaita philosophy. Yeah, that's why, especially in Puri, there's all types of philosophies or all types of different groups there as well. And now they sometimes, as the same as Bishop Shane, they're known for, they actually do magic. Sometimes they cure diseases. Yeah. They're involved in the production of marijuana and opium. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says there was 15,000 of them in Orissa during his time. Yeah. And that was very much against the English government. Yeah. Perhaps not so, that part might not be so bad. Yeah. All right. That's enough of them. Let's move on, shall we? Next. I think this is we're finishing here. Let me just see. Oh no, there's a Kata budget. Aus, Bao, Shani, and Daravesh. Similar to the Prakrita Sahajiyas. So there's 4 here we're going to touch upon. Aus, Bao, Shani, and Daravesh. Now they're quite closely related, these 4. Grouped together, they're known as the Bauls. Somebody might have heard of them. The Bauls of Bengal. So they're Sahajiyas. They have very much tantric practices, and they have these Sufi influence as well. Now these people don't necessarily present themselves as Vaishnavas, as the others amazingly do. Yeah, but they claim to embody the real spirit of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. See, they're dancing here. Now, I'll explain why these two pictures are here as well. We have Mr. Sai Baba, and we have, this is well known in India. He's the original Sai Baba. Anyway, so don't forgive. Okay, I won't give the word definition, but now, okay, we're going to get into some, some unmentionable things, but we'll just pass it quickly, I think. They practice Tantra, specifically Tantra illicit activities, okay, as yoga. That's part of, this is part of what they do. And they see themselves embodying the true spirit of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So, so they think their close connection, or that principle of Tantra, that illicit Tantra, that connects them with the deeper wisdom of the universe. That's, so the word, so like in Bengali, the word aul is related to a word which is called ko lata, which means afflicted. So in a sense, they're afflicted with bhav or love. Yeah. So they think, you know, the descriptions of Lord Chaitanya's associates in Chaitanya Charitamrita, they see themselves as achieving that state of kulata, of being affected by the madness of love. Yeah. So also the word baula comes from the Sanskrit word vatula, or mad. Okay. It means impatiently eager. So, okay, so that's some of the etymology of the name. So there you'll see them in India. They're often wandering minstrels. They just wander from village to village, sometimes in groups, and they dress like this. I was looking online for pictures of some of these bowls. This is a common dress that they may wear. Yeah. And they may carry here, they have drums, tabla, bamboo flute, and they do Harinam, and they got songs to express their philosophy, and some of them are quite famous. Some bowls, even there's one famous bowl. They're quite famous for their songs, and some of them are world famous actually. Purna Das Bowl. There's even, they have concerts at the Albert Hall in London. Yeah, for their singing and their singing. I was doing a bit of looking online, looking up some of these names. You can see some of them there. They're like on the stage and they're singing these songs. So you can imagine they're quite attractive to the village folk. You see here, you know, they come and they're quite good musicians as well, and they have these songs, and they go into these trances during their songs, you know. Now, that's the bowls, owls and bowls. Now, Shani comes from the word Swami. So these are mendicants. Now they wander around. They just wander around. They supposedly renounced all external designations. Now, one example of these Shandis who wander around, one of them is here. His pictures all over India. Some of you probably know. If you go to India, his pictures everywhere. This is Shritti Sai Baba. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now his follower is Satya Sai Baba. Yeah. And now Satya Sai Baba claims to be a reincarnated Shritta Sai Baba. Yeah. Okay. Now the Darvish, they are the gurus of the owls, bowls, and shanis, supposedly. Yeah. So they are supposed to reach the highest. I couldn't find any pictures of these ones. They're supposed to reach the highest realization through what? Tantric sadhana. I won't go into more details about that. Yeah. So Prabhupada translated, he looked here interestingly, he translates the word Dadavesh as a hippie. Yeah. So Davesh is it's a Sufi term. Yeah, it comes from, means to beg from door to door. So there's all different types of sahajiyas, yeah? Yeah. And it gets, I don't know how far to go to describe these details. More on tantric, yeah, they view all existence as being formed from a combination of mundane male and female principles, Purusha and Prakriti. So that's part of their sadhana, to combine male and female principles. And we won't go any further. You can understand what the meaning. And they describe their inner ecstasy that they feel. That will cause them to attain or to completely be free from all material existence. Anyway. Yeah, I'm just scrolling through some of these perhaps unpleasant details. Any questions about this? Okay, let's just go on and let's have some quotes. There's a bit more here. Yeah. The bowls, they're kind of, as we said, they're folk musicians, and they have massive influence in Bengali culture. They were patronized by no less than Rabindranath Tagore. Sorry for my pronunciation, but he's a famous Nobel Prize-winning poet from Bengal. And he would support them, and there's many books about them. And they will keep long hair and a bun top of their head, and they wear the gown of a Muslim faker. They have Rudraksha beads often. They carry the Rari beads of a Muslim, and they have tilak and japamala of a Vaishnava. All the same. So they dress like a Muslim. They wear Rudraksha beads. They carry Muslim Rari beads. They wear tilak, and they have japa. All the same, yeah. And usually have a beard. It's got hair, and they carry a shoulder bag, and like that. And they really flock. There's festivals there's big Mahotsavas which they go to, which often they coincide with Gaudiya Vaishnava festivals. Yeah. There's thousands of them gather at one particular mela called the Jayadev Kenduli Mela, celebrating Jayadev Goswami, and thousands of them gather for a 3-day festival. Now they move from one festival to the next, and they smoke hemp. Yeah, I read somewhere else is what they do is they have they will pick up one woman at one festival, and then when they get to the next festival, they all swap round. And they pick up another women, and they all change partners. Then they move to the next festival. Yeah, it gets quite degraded. I mean, what's the thing about this? Because we know in the West, at least we understand that is basically kind of that's kind of the madness of lust. Yeah, but they disguise it in spirituality. Yeah, it's all disguised in some type of, they kind of use Lord Chaitanya they kind of think they've adopted the mood of Lord Chaitanya. So this lust, it manifests within their so-called culture of spiritualism in India. Now, there's one thing which I read, which I won't repeat now, which is what they do as part of their initiation, some of these, but I've never read something so alarming and disgusting in my life so far, 55 years on earth. There's something which they do, which I wish I hadn't even read it. It's so disgusting that I'm not going to mention it into here now. It's amongst the Vaishnavas, But what they do, I'll not mention that part. What they do is, for instance, I heard they go to a festival, and there's a big scream, and the ladies put their finger through the scream, and the bow on the other side will just grab the finger. And whoever lady is, then they get together and they do their tantra, and they move on to the next festival, smoking opium and hashish, stopping in villages and doing kirtan. Yeah, like that. I mean, yeah.
Just thinking what their next life is going to be like.
Yeah, well, it's doubt with the hellish world, and then the doubt.
Yeah.
Human form.
Disgusting. He will be disgusting
it,
their life.
Yeah. And it's in India, and what's worse is they kind of it's portrayed as some type of high class spirituality. Yeah.
Now, what gets me, like innocent people get into it who have no knowledge.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's why.
The main few ones who know the thing, they follow but the innocent will see them being so high up now, nice kids and things like that, and they would get into.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's like our movement, like ISKCON. Yeah, that's why it's their only saving grace, actually, and not though it's their saving grace. Also, we have to admit, we have like the Swami Narayans as well. They're doing a lot of preaching, and they have a respectful sadhana. They're not the same ultimate philosophy of us, but yeah, it's sometimes it's a case of like who gets to them first. Movements like ISKCON or yeah. Anyway, I do want to finish this today, so let's just read this quote from Prabhupada. Then going to one more sect. Then we're going to bring up couple of Apasampradayas that are with us today. One should accept the thing as genuine by studying the words of saintly people, the spiritual master and Sastra. The actual center is Sastra, the revealed scripture. If a spiritual master does not speak according to revealed scripture, he is not to be accepted. Similarly, if a saintly person does not speak according to Sastra, he is not a saintly person. Sastra is a center for all. Now, this is Karta Bhaja, worshippers of Guru as God. Cool, we have Shakshat Tatvina. The Guru is the representative of God. But these Karta Bhaja, you just get to here. They venerate. Let me just get here. So their conclusion is that the Guru alone is the supreme personality of Godhead. Yeah. No other form is worshipable. No other deity, nothing. You just worship the Guru is God. He is the Archamurti. Yeah. Now they say if the name of Krishna is chanted, it is because the Guru is Krishna. Yeah. So they have a mixed up philosophy. We've only got 5 minutes left, so I might go through this a bit quick. They have a founder who lived in the 1600s. His followers said he was none other than Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, who appeared again in Nadia 200 years after Lord Chaitanya had appeared. There's more here. They have their own holy book called the Bhagavad Gita, which is different songs.
So they do have their philosophy and books that they follow.
Oh, they have, yeah, their own books. Trying to think. Yeah, they chant the name Krishna, but say the names of Kali and Allah are equal to it, because all of the names of the Guru is quite confusing. Yeah. Now there's a history here. There was a revolt against the Jatai Goswai and Smartas coming from the Kartabhajas. Anyway, let's just go on. I think, yeah, the part I'm trying to find is here. So the Guru means he is the boss, which means he can do anything he wants. I mean, literally anything, even illicit activities. He is Guru. Yeah. He can do anything he wants. Yeah.
Because they think he is God then.
Yeah. So God is freed. God is the enjoyer. He can do as he's like. And there's more here. Let's just go on. Let's just. Doctrines like those of the Nadi Nagaris, a class of so-called devotees, are never presented by authorized persons like Sri Damodar, the six Goswamis. The idea of Nadi and Nagaris is simply, well, we've already had this quote, haven't we? I don't know where it's there. It's simply mental concoction. Then we finishing here. So this is a mixture of Vaishnava and Buddhists. Yeah. The women generally will have shaven head. You might see them in a Navadvip area. Difficult to distinguish them apart from shaven-headed Vaishnavas. This is Apasampradayas began at the time of Virabhadra Goswami, the son of Lord Nityananda. So they have this mixed up concept of Tantric Buddhism and Vaishnavism. Again, Tantric illicit activities is there. There's more. Yeah. They have a so-called Apasampradayas. Anyway, because it's just hit about the 7 o'clock. I did want to mention that we have the Rik Riks who could they're kind of this is an Apasampradaya as well. I mean, we're familiar with them to some degree. I won't get right into their philosophy. I think we're quite familiar what it is or what it's not. But also there's another interesting anyone heard of you heard of Rastafari? Yeah, there's a new cult which is called Krishnafari.
Oh.
Krishnafari. And this was started by one young man. He was coming to a temple a few years ago.
I've seen that.
Yeah, you've seen that. They will come and they dress like Vaishnavas. They have tilak, they have beads, they do kirtan. Most of them are, I think, initiated by Narayan Maharaj. Nothing against Narayan Maharaj, but that's who they took initiation from. And they will also have, he has a Sufi spiritual master, another spiritual master like that. And their idea, there's some hidden mystical connection between Rastafari. Who's the founder of Rastafari? Who do they worship? That Emperor Haile Selassie. There's a mystical connection between him and Krishna. So, and they got a whole website. It's called Krishnafari, you know. And he was coming to our temple, and he had to stop coming in the end. He would bring quite a lot of young people as well. He's quite, in one sense, charismatic person. Sorry?
He was so awful, and all the time he had different girlfriends.
That's it. Yeah, that's him. He'd come with different girls every time.
Every time.
Latika remembers him.
Trying to convert devotees, trying to take them from ISKCON. Over the temple.
Yeah, and that's why we had to tell him to stop coming. Yeah, So that's
How long was it actually, Murli Prabhu? How long was ago this all was happening?
4 years ago.
Did,
5
okay,
years ago.
thank
Yeah, it's called Krishna Faras. There's another burgeoning Apasampradaya. As I looked online and I found they got their website, they got their videos, they got their, you know, they're trying to raise money for a center, and it's Krishna Fara, you know, like that. Anyway, unfortunately, we don't have time to really kind of go into more detail, but that's just, sorry, I rushed through it at the end. I will put this up as a recording, but if you want the slides themselves to read more of the notes, which I didn't read all of the notes, you can let me know, and I can send you the slides along with the notes so you can read in your own time. Yeah, if you might be interested.
Who is this on this side? This like a statue or deity? I don't know what it is.
Oh, this is Buddha, no? This is Tantric Buddha.
Oh.
This is a tantric form of Buddha. Yeah.
If real Buddhist, Theravada Buddhist knows, they won't be happy at all.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we'll stop there. So next week we're going to perhaps go more on the positive side. We're going to continue with the chapter, which is hearing and chanting at the stages of bhava and prema.
you. Oh, that's more likely.
Yeah, and what that looks like, because we've been discussing hearing and chanting at Nishta and Ruchi, then a Shakti. So then and hearing at a Shakti, we went on a bit of a deviation, so to speak. We actually went on a deviation to Vaishnav deviant sex. So next week we'll come back. We're going to be continuing with this about hearing and chanting at the stages of bhava and prema. Okay, so thank you for joining us.
His Grace Murli Prabhu ki jai. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.